Person-centered approach. This training is for WCHS staff in relation to people first language and person-centered supports. Language to avoid. Using insulting or offensive language, even if in the past it was used as a diagnostic term. Use of the word retarded is unacceptable. Though it is derived from the medical diagnosis of mental retardation, it has become offensive over time and became a word used to insult. Removal of the R word from common language has been a primary focus of self-advocacy groups for the past several years. Much progress has been made. Sometimes people get defensive about being told what words are acceptable. They refer to this as being PC. But as someone who genuinely cares for others, we should never intentionally use a word which they find offensive, especially if it relates to a disability which may impact their life. How should we refer to someone who has a disability? First, is it even necessary to mention? How about we just call them by their name? If it is necessary, follow these guidelines. Mention the person first. Example, the girl with Down syndrome, instead of saying that Down's girl or disabled girl. Mention the use of adaptive equipment after the person instead of an identifier. The young man who uses a wheelchair instead of the wheelchair-bound boy. Another example would be, he has autism instead of he is autistic. Supporting people to achieve the life they desire through a person-centered approach is not based on a set number of hours or services that we as an agency provide, but rather identifying the goals and dreams of an individual and finding ways to help them obtain them. Instead of staff leading the way to give a meaningful life to an individual, it takes the opposite approach. It assumes the person is able to identify the life they want to live. Staff and others who are not paid to be there follow behind, providing necessary support to assist the person to accomplish their dreams. Take a look at this chart. It illustrates support for helping a person obtain and live a good life. The individual is in the center of all the supports. They're moving toward a good life. This good life is defined by them with input from others. Input is suggestions, not demands. For a person to find and live a good life, they and others will need to consider the gifts, strengths, and talents of the individual. The person-centered approach is an approach that looks at the person's abilities instead of focusing on their limitations. This can be a challenge for some. While doing assessments and authorizing and justifying service in this field, we are forced to focus on limitations. It requires then a shifting of gears for us to realize in day-to-day support that our focus is not so much on the limitations as it is on the possibilities. Respecting the dignity of risk means that we respect the right of individuals to fail. If it is not an immediate health and safety risk, even as paid providers, we should provide informed choice and respect the decision of the individual. Certainly, we cannot allow someone to harm themselves or others, but day to day we are referring to the individual's ability and opportunity to learn life lessons, and sometimes those lessons come through failure. In assisting someone to live the good life, we should help them identify their experiences and environment. Be careful about suggestive statements, which may lead the individual to give the answer they thought you wanted them to give. Open-ended questions is a way to avoid this. Ask questions which are not easily answered with one word or with yes or no responses. Helping someone obtain a good life means we spend quality time getting to know them and asking them about their hopes and dreams. Thoroughly reading and comprehending the person-centered plan or individualized support plan of each individual you provide support to is very important. It is one of the primary ways that you can get to know that person. Be careful to make your own assessment. Give value to the things others say as long as those things are positive supports. But get to know the individual yourself. Sometimes in this field we are bad about holding a mistake, or bad choice as we would call it, over someone's head for a long time. Spend time talking to and listening to those you support. Give them a caring ear. Have you heard the term check it at the door? Well, check these at the door. When I support someone else in a person-centered way, I want to set them up for success, not failure. I want to model desirable behavior. I want to avoid being coercive and controlling. So I need to check my preconceived ideas at the door. I need to check my desire for control and convenience at the door. And I need to leave old language and ideas behind if they hinder the positive supports which are needed from me. Let's take a look at this scenario which illustrates when services are or are not provided in a person-centered manner. John historically hates his annual ISB meeting. He expects it to be 2 hours of lecture on what he's not doing right and what he's doing wrong. Now, why would he think that? Is it possible that that's been his experience in the past? He comes in, he says very little, he agrees with what people say, and he goes away feeling like this year will be like every other. So what are the changes that are needed? Well, the first one is trust. Trust will only be built with a planning team through stay close, cool, random, and routine. The old saying that time heals all wounds is just not true. But time which proves change, among others, will heal wounds. In other words, John can trust again, but it's going to take consistency and time. Investment. Getting John invested in his own plan meeting will only happen if he has a choice. It may not be the choice you would have chosen. It may not be the choice I would have chosen, but his choice is important to him. Instead of arguing with him about a choice, why not ask good questions about him, about his environment, and about his choice? A solution may be available which wouldn't be found if we continue our lecture. And the last one is hope. John will only change his opinion about supports and services if he has hope. Hope that this year can really be different than last. He may be tired of people asking him about his hope and dreams only to tell him why he can't accomplish them. Change can be found. Exciting, invested commitment can be obtained, but only if we stop trying to force and convince those we support. Providing the care they need while respecting them as a person is the first step in doing so. To further illustrate this idea of hope, let's look at this picture. Needlessly held back. Have you ever seen an elephant tied to a small post? I mean, this huge and powerful animal is tied to a small post with a thin rope. How does that happen? For an elephant born into captivity and used in circus-type settings, many times trainers will take the baby elephant, tie him to a post with a thin rope connecting one front leg to the post. That baby elephant will pull against the post over and over to no avail. Finally, it gives up. But then it grows into this enormous animal that could demolish an entire house, but in its mind, it's still unable to get free. When people have been held down and denied choice throughout their life, it can be very difficult to convince them that they are worthy of effort. Maybe they've given up. You have an opportunity by believing in them and building strong, healthy relationships and helping them build strong, healthy relationships outside of faith supports to see them break free. Your believing in them may be what they need to realize their strength, because life tied to a stake is no life at all.